when does that power get unleashed and how? And what we're saying is the way it gets unleashed is by enough relationships, enough power. Organizing power happens to where they can't not do it.
So why don't we do it
right?
in California?
Actually, he has the mic, but I like that question, and I'll right after him.
Okay.
Yeah.
Meantime, I'm keeping this mic, but okay. I'm still struggling with a very basic question here. Let's talk about the cigarette tax for a minute. Somebody comes along and says, "Hey, Dick, you're smoking too much, and to get you to smoke much less, we're going to keep increasing cigarette taxes until you cut it down and even quit." So I say, gee, that's really painful. But it sounds like you're going to put that money into helping people to stop smoking. So it's a good cause. Raise the taxes, I understand. Okay, now it comes to the carbon tax. And you come up to me and you say, Dick, you're driving that Hummer, and we really are going to need to put a carbon tax on that gasoline to make you hopefully eventually sell that Hummer. And I say, geez, that's really painful. I guess I'm going to eventually have to sell my Hummer. And you say, oh, wait, don't worry about it, because the money that you're spending extra is going to come back to you. So keep the Hummer.
Right.
And then I might say, well, wait a minute. If you're going to tax me, why don't you put the money into encouraging renewable resources? Then I might have more incentive to even want to pay the tax. But if you're going to just bring money right back to me, I'm keeping my Hummer.
Right.
So
right.
Can you help me with that?
Yeah.
How are you incentivizing me when you're going to hand me the money right back?
Right. Right. So the answer, now this kind of does get back to the issue of, power and force, because it's important to remember that in addition to the economics, it has now become sort of a stigma to smoke. So there's another kind of power that's at play as well, okay? So now in direct response to like how that plays out in the world, we don't have to just blindly trust that this works. It has worked, okay? It has worked in a small way in reducing cigarette use, but it's also worked in a much larger way in British Columbia. So the other thing that bears considering when you're trying to work your way through this, because my brain was similarly tied in knots when I first heard this, and I didn't trust it either, and I don't think anybody should. You should be skeptical. But the real number crunching on how that plays out is in that REMI study. And you're going to have to do your homework. If you are not convinced, you are going to have to dig into it and see why it works, and why 90+% of economists say this is the best solution. Okay?
You have a uniform refund, but non-uniform consumption. Yeah. Right. So those consumers above average will get less back on their spending.
Yeah, and the thing about these things, could we design something better if everybody agreed with us? Absolutely. Yeah. That's the deal. It's what's the best solution is by definition it first has to pass the threshold of getting done, of being able to appeal and get through the Congress. So we could sit here in an ivory tower and figure out something much better. I could articulate a better policy, but I would not attract the folks. I would like to means test it. I would like to say, well, the rich people, they don't get anything back. And the people in the bottom quintile, they get double the shares. And the people in the middle quintile get triple the share. It's like, it would be better in a lot of ways if everybody had the same mindset as we do, but they don't. So that's what we're looking at.
Yeah. Yes. My question is, why not California? It seems like the
Thank-
political climate in California is much more amenable to this. We're also, I guess, 6th, 7th largest economy in the world.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
Go
you got,
California!
yeah. And the other gentleman's comment or question, I understand that, you know, we got to get a lot of good people to do it, and that sometimes that means compromise. I get that.
Yeah.
But the thing that does bother me is I like the investment tax credit that we had for renewable energy. I thought that really brought on investors. I'm one of them.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Yeah.
I drive a Tesla. I voted Republican my entire life, not this last election, but and so I'm all for giving investment tax credits to brilliant people that are willing to put up capital to make fundamental changes for society for the better. And my simple math in my head says, if it's $15 a ton, real quick and dirty math, that's about 15 cents a gallon. Okay? I can walk you through that if you want to.
I think the calculation is,
Gasoline, when
it's
you
actually, I think you're off by a decimal point.
if that's the case, then that's
Is that right?
much bigger.
Is that
deal.
right? Yeah, okay. Okay, good. Let's go with that math. Go ahead.
All right, so 15. I don't mean to brag, but 15 cents a gallon, okay, is not going to get people to change, because the price of crude oil has fluctuated. Just think what it's done in the last 5 years, and it's going to happen again. And I'm an advocate. Don't stone me. For like $5, $6, $7 a gallon to
Right.
make a fundamental change.
Isn't it less about incentivizing the people to change and incentivizing the companies to change? Because then the people will just follow.
Who do you think pays for the products that the companies sell?
But if the companies have to change their policies, then we can still buy their products. They just are making a greener way.
But you got to understand, when you drive a car, I'm gonna guess just about everybody drove here today, right? And who came here in an electric car? Okay, a handful of us. You like that when we ask that question next year to be 80% of us.
So people don't replace their
Right.
cars every year.
So,
10 years, in 10 years.
I think there was a question there.
California.
California. Okay, because we got off on something else. So he asked two questions. One was about why aren't we doing this in California? And then the other one was more about like a direct tax at the pump, which is a whole thing that we actually went through at the ballot box, and there was a lot of political bloodshed over, you know, what you're talking about as far as the pump. But as far as working it in California, there has been a REMI study done for California. Okay? That's been paid for, that's in the books, and you can look at it, and guess what? It works out well for California as well, and yes, we should be doing it. So we need to advocate for that. We need to recognize that a huge amount of blood, sweat, and tears went into AB 32, to SB 350, and all of the things that are already in place. And so we have to recognize now when the REMI study for California was done, they did it as an overlay, leave everything in place of AB 32 and SB 350, and add in the carbon tax, and the numbers come out well. So it is much more complicated, and it's not something that we can easily answer in this kind of forum, and it is something that people are talking about a lot at high levels in our state government, and I'm engaged in that conversation with people. I'm trying to encourage people to go in that direction. So yes, California can do it, should do it, and I hope will do it. So we have to make sure that in the state of Washington, this type of approach, it wasn't 100% what we're advocating for, but very similar in the state of Washington. And the biggest opponents were big green organizations, Sierra Club, Food and Water Watch, and many, and I'm a member of all of those, so I was like, no! And we're having meetings with those organizations on a regular basis to go like, what the heck, right? But we didn't put enough energy into clarifying why this approach works better in our own camp. We were looking at, how do we talk to the opposition, which we thought was on the other side of the political fence, and we didn't firm up and discuss and make clear the strengths and weaknesses of our approach with Big Green. And so we paid the price in Washington, but as Mark was saying, that maybe is a really good thing because we said, oh, we haven't been doing our jobs. We haven't been creating enough relationships at the highest levels of those organizations where they decided. And from what I understand, the decision was made, I think, because of a political calculation about how the election was going to turn out, and it didn't turn out that way. So I don't know. We'll see.
I have a microphone. So what do you say to a conservative who really believes in the free enterprise system and wants to incentivize businesses, startups, that this could, at what level do you start taxing a new business or a business that's thinking of getting started?
Right. Well, yeah. Everybody heard that? Yeah. So cool thing is, we have actually done the study down to a district level, and you can see how, what the money is like and how it'll affect businesses and what business will be affected. So the studies are there, okay? So we have that information and we take those into our meetings with members of Congress. And as far as a business goes, the tax is not on the business. So small businesses are not taxed. The tax is on the extraction companies at the very top, okay? And so, yes, certain costs will go up, but there will also be significantly more money in the pockets of their customers. So their businesses will grow, and if you're more entrepreneurial and investment type, thinking, then your investments are going to go more towards cleaner solutions because there's a rising cost that's going to steadily rise for any business decisions you make that include using fossil fuels. Okay? Yeah. I guess we're going with the mics. So pass the mic.
My
Get a mic.
question is, does the study already include?
I just want to hold the
Yeah.
question for just a second. How are we doing on time? Because
5 more minutes.
We got 5. Okay, good.
Does the study already include like the top biggest problems that like industry, production, imports, methane gas, eating beef? Has the study already sort of identified the top abusers?
So the cool thing about it is, here's the thing. I won't eat meat, because I recognize what it does to the planet, and I personally don't. But here's the thing. If we get this right, it will simply cost more to do everything. Everything will cost more that has some CO2 in it. If we get the methane right, which is the CO2e, if we get that into the legislation, and we got to fight for that, that's a progressive battle to be had to make sure that that's included. And you want to get in, you want to start a fight in Washington, start talking about anything that affects agriculture and animal agriculture. It's like that's fighting words, right? Sacred cow, right? So yeah, that's what we have to do is make it cost more to do things that harm us. And this is the strategy of this particular solution. There's not one solution that's going to fit everything. A lot of environmentalists like to say, and I think it's true, there's no silver bullet, but there's silver buckshot. So we can't sit here and say, oh, that's everything, and don't do that. I'm all down with everything Food and Water wants to do. The Sierra Club wants to do. I'm down with getting out in the streets and all of those stuff. Okay, but this particular solution carries a lot of bang, and it makes a big impact. And it also changes how we think about it, because once you get that legislation through, you just completely end the debate. Well, not completely, because some people will hold on. But, you know, it'll start to create an ethic in our country that it's not okay. Yeah.
Quick question, could we
I
get,
didn't answer the question?
What about my?
No, I wanted to know, has there been identified a one top abuser of our emissions or our creating this carbon problem? Like,
cars?
It's actually divided
Yeah.
between agriculture, transportation, and industrial and
Yeah. Yes, there has been, those studies have been done, and yes, I have slides on them, and I'm happy to go into that in detail. The cool thing, all I was trying to get across is that this type of legislation addresses, because you deal with it upstream at the very top, it affects everything throughout the entire economy. Yeah.
Quick question, he raised the issue about price at the pump going up. Could we get the numbers straight as to what?
They are, and I'm sorry, thank you.
$15 would translate to 17 cents,
So-
$30, 34 cents, so he was very close.
Very accurate, okay.
Say that again,
So $15 is 17 cents, he said 15 cents, he was bang on.
So if you get up to $100, it's going to go up $1 a gallon,
Yeah, exactly.
right? And this is where you get into that discussion and argument, and we're going to have to get out of here. But the discussion and argument about like what the right price is, you're basically, if you're talking about the social cost of carbon, which is what we are talking about, how much damage is being done. We're facing a situation where scientists are telling us that we may make the planet unlivable. And so the social cost of carbon may be everything. So the true correct price, from the point of view of a true conservative who believed in the economy, would be the true cost of carbon is everything that we have, own, or will ever own. Right? So that's tough. That's tough. So I think the more gradually protects our business, the more rapidly protects our planet. But we kind of have to like keep, you know, that's what people are arguing over. How high should that price be? I can't think of a number that's too big in my mind. So there we go. We do need to respect the time. Thank you. Hey.